Hey family, on this week's Danielle Inspires, the transformational educator in me will take over and you're going to get a feel of being in a world-class conference, consuming high-quality content, but from the comforts of your own home. Today, class is in session and I'm going to school you on how to negotiate a better quality of life. What I've prepared for you is a game changer that will revolutionize how you see yourself and how you interact with the world. If you're feeling like the underdog, working hard with very little to show for your efforts, then this episode will be your time to discover how to negotiate a better quality of life. So go grab your pen and a piece of paper because you're going to want to take notes. Seriously, school is in session. Let's get ready to rumble. Before I jump into the agenda for this discussion, I want to share a quote with you that lives and breathes in me every day. The quote is from Bishop T.D. Jakes. Listen to what he had to say. In life, you don't get what you want, you get what you negotiate. If what Bishop Jakes expressed is true, then to get to a place called better requires negotiating more favorable options for yourself and your family. Wanting a better life really badly isn't enough to bring about the changes you desire. Use your vision for the future as the starting point to inspire you to open negotiations for the life you truly desire. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., for example, had been to a metaphorical mountaintop where he was able to see the United States becoming a grand expression of democracy, equality, justice, and liberty for all. That grand vision was articulated in his powerful "I Have a Dream" speech, where he uttered potent words indicating what better looked like to him. He explained, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." Today, I want to engage in a dialogue with you about negotiating the life you want. If any of you have dreamed of a better life, whether it's more fulfillment at work, bringing more love and respect into your relationships, or increasing your earning potential, then type "hell yes" in the chat box. Let's take a look at your learning pathway. I will provide you with an introduction to negotiation, and then we'll spend some time identifying your negotiating style. We'll walk through the negotiation process, and I'll give you some keys to negotiate like a pro. And we'll conclude with a simulation to power up your negotiating style. Let's jump in with some true or false questions. True or false? A good definition for negotiate is to bargain in a petty, quibbling, and often contentious manner. That's false. To haggle means to bargain in a petty, quibbling, and often contentious manner. But a good definition for negotiate is to have formal or informal discussions with someone in order to reach an agreement. Pre-COVID-19 negotiations primarily took place at a boardroom table. True or false? That's false. Negotiations spontaneously or purposefully take place anywhere and at any time. You've probably held negotiations in every room of your house with your kids, spouse, roommate, guests, contractors, and so forth. You've negotiated in your car with passengers, maybe trying to agree on where to go or the best way to get from point A to point Z, which leads me to the next true or false. Negotiations are not limited to big decisions and or landmark agreements. True or false? That's true. Negotiations are not limited to big decisions and or landmark agreements. When you're working with other people, much of your time is spent negotiating, even if it's just deciding whose turn it is to buy coffee. For projects to be successful, roles, strategies, targets, and deadlines all need to be agreed upon, ideally to everyone's satisfaction. And there are also times when it's not obvious a negotiation process is taking place, such as when you are conferring with your children about quiet time or deliberating with your partner about the best color scheme for the house. Last one, true or false? You are a successful negotiator if the other party always caves to your demands. My answer is it depends. Your answer to this question says something about your approach to negotiating. So the correct answer is true or false, depending on your style. We will discuss different negotiation styles momentarily, but first, let's discuss different negotiation outcomes. The first negotiation outcome we'll discuss is lose-lose. In this type of outcome, all parties are worse off after the negotiation. Resentment exists between both parties as a result of the outcome, and it is unlikely that they will ever negotiate with each other again. Sometimes a negotiation is destined to achieve this result, such as in a divorce or custody battle. And the most optimal outcome might be to ensure that both sides sustain equal loss and equal unhappiness. The next negotiation outcome is win-lose. Only one party perceives the result of the negotiation as positive. While the side that won may be very happy about the outcome, the losing side has a high level of resentment over the deal because they did not have any or few of their needs met. This usually results in an end to any future negotiations and a termination of the relationship. In lawsuits, for example, one person wins and the other loses. One person walks away smiling and the other walks away resentful. You could be in a relationship with someone with a controlling personality, and that person could be your spouse, your manager, or an aging parent living under your roof. And negotiations or discussions, as you probably call them, always end with the controlling party getting their way while your needs and desires remain unmet. In a stalemate, neither side wins or loses, and after a long negotiating session, both sides are at the exact same place that they started off at. Stalemates happen when both sides aggressively defend their positions and neither side is able to make the other side budge. I'd rather a negotiation end in a stalemate than lose-lose or win-win. With a stalemate, there may be opportunities to revisit the negotiation table later or pursue better alternatives. Here's an example. Say you go to buy a car and the salesperson quotes you a price that is too high. You are unwilling to budge on your price and the salesperson is unwilling to budge on his quote. You then walk out of the dealership and go to another dealership and the salesman moves on to the next customer. No one loses, no one wins. Both parties are at the exact same place that they started off at, and perhaps down the road, the two parties might attempt to work together on a deal again. Keep in mind King Solomon's wise words, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." I choose to believe that time is always on my side and working for my good. Win-win. In this type of outcome, both sides walk away with their interests and needs being met. Both sides leave the negotiating table satisfied. Relationships are preserved because both parties cooperated with each other in determining a fair solution to the problem. This outcome also bolsters trust for future negotiations between the two parties because they have established a positive relationship. When you first enter a relationship as a new hire, for example, it feels like a win-win. Both parties walk away believing their interests and needs will be met through the employment relationship. Win-win feels great when it happens, and it even feels great to talk about. But is win-win always possible? True or false? Win-win isn't always possible. That's true. Win-win isn't always possible. If the negotiation is purely about financial gain and you want top dollar, but the other party wants a bargain basement price, there really isn't an area of agreement or room to achieve a win-win. If you have any questions or even comments, type them in the chat at any time during this session and I'll respond within 48 hours. So let's recap the negotiation outcome. I gave you 4: lose-lose, win-lose, stalemate, and win-win. The negotiation process can be a bumpy, uncomfortable ride, but there are some strategies to smooth out your pathway to successful outcomes that include having an awareness of your negotiating style and an idea of what style your negotiation counterpart gravitates towards. And you need to understand how to augment your negotiation approach with elements of other styles. Decades of research have revealed that people approach negotiations from one of 5 styles. These styles I'm going to share are adapted from Thomas Kilmann's conflict styles and tend to correlate well in negotiation. The 5 styles are competing, avoiding, accommodating, compromising, and collaborating. After I introduce each style, you will go through an exercise to identify the style that is most representative of you. Some of you might move between styles depending on the situation, but you'll still have one default or dominant style that truly fits your comfort zone. The first style is competing. Negotiators that exhibit this style are assertive, self-confident, and focused on the deal and results. These individuals tend to pursue their own concerns, sometimes at their counterpart's expense, and in the extreme can become aggressive and domineering. Basically, with this style, the person is shooting for a win-lose outcome. When my son and I talked about these different styles, he said that his dominant style is not competing, but he confessed to using the competing style when someone needs to get spanked badly. His words, not mine. For example, if a person is in his virtual gaming community and they have a disruptive presence, or they annoy him to the point that his opponent needs to go down hard, then my son will use the competing style to sway the person towards what he deems to be a favorable group outcome. As another example, you would expect litigators to use this style in defense of their clients. The next style is avoiding. Negotiators that exhibit this style are generally less assertive and a bit apprehensive. They prefer to avoid stepping into or creating tension. They stay neutral, objective, or removed from the situation, or leave responsibility to their counterpart. This individual does not immediately pursue his own interests or those of the other person. This style is low in assertiveness and in cooperativeness, and not focused on either the substance of the agreement or the relationship. I struggled a bit with understanding this style because I tried to pair real faces and personal experiences to this approach, and then I sighed, yes. The avoiding negotiator is the person who isn't committed to the outcome one way or the other because they don't even want to be at the negotiation table in the first place. And they don't want to be responsible for making a decision or proposing solutions out of fear. It could be the fear of being wrong or the fear of looking stupid. Whatever the basis for avoiding, it's triggered by fear. Some of you watching this episode have an avoiding negotiation style in the workplace. You are emotionally disconnected from influencing outcomes at work, and you might not be invested in the decisions of others. My goal in this video is to help you know your power to influence outcomes versus just accepting what is. You have the power to shape decisions impacting your life, even if the person or party on the other side of the negotiation table has a lose-lose or win-lose mentality. Once you own the outcomes you are experiencing, whether on the job or at home, you empower yourself to negotiate a better quality of life. How many of you are ready to produce better results for yourself and those connected to you? Let me know in chat. Next, we have the accommodating style. Negotiators that exhibit this style focus on maintaining relationships with the other party. They tend to smooth over tensions, minimize differences, and are most concerned with maintaining a good rapport and satisfying the needs of the other party. This style is lower in assertiveness and higher in cooperativeness. These negotiators tend to emphasize the relationship as more important than the substance of the agreement. Now let's contrast accommodating with the compromising style. Negotiators that exhibit this style often split the difference, exchange concessions, and seek a quick middle ground solution, which tends to end in moderate satisfaction of both parties. This style is intermediate in assertiveness and cooperativeness and are more focused on creating a decent agreement relatively efficiently while maintaining some relationship. My son said that his dominant style is compromising because he most often seeks a middle ground solution. First, he thought accommodating was his style, but he values the substance of agreements and the relationship. I have a client who has a self-sacrificing, accommodating style, and her husband has a competing style. Her husband is very confident and assertive and demands certain concessions from my client. I noticed the dynamic between these two and talked with my client about bringing her needs to the negotiation table as well, something she wasn't used to doing. You should never ignore your own needs and consistently empower others to make decisions for you while you ride in the back seat of your own life. Time to jump into the driver's seat and take care of your own happiness. As I discussed this last style, I want you to be really honest about which style fits who you are right now. You might aspire to be more competitive or more accommodating, and that's great. I'm going to share some techniques to help you augment your current style. In this moment, I want you to be vulnerable and honest about your current style. So the fifth and final style is collaborating. Negotiators that exhibit this style are often honest and communicative. They focus on finding novel and creative solutions that fully satisfy the concerns of all parties and suggest many ideals for consideration before deciding. This style is high in assertiveness and in cooperativeness, promoting both the relationship and the substance of the agreement at hand as very important. These negotiators tend to value taking the time to create optimal long-term outcomes over efficiency and leaving value on the table. When we talked about negotiation outcomes earlier, I deliberately left one off the list until now, and I want to link the collaborating negotiating style to this mystery negotiation outcome. The mystery outcome is called Win Plus. Negotiating pros in the collaborating style often bring about Win Plus outcomes. Do you have any idea what Win Plus might be? Well, let me tell you. Win Plus is an outcome in which each party feels they've gained more than they expected. Instead of negotiating parties trying to kind of slice up a small pizza, a masterful collaborator will try to figure out how to make the pie bigger so both parties walk away with more than they expected. Powerful relationships can emerge when the negotiation outcome is Win Plus. Now it's time to bring self-awareness to your negotiation style. If one style seems more like you than the other, or just more comfortable for you to operate in one style as opposed to the other, let me know in the chat box which style that is. To help you identify your negotiation style, I have a self-assessment you can complete. The link is in the description below. Why don't you take some time now and complete it, and I'll be right here when you return. Well, congratulations on completing your self-assessment. And if you have a question about different styles, you can type them in chat or you can instant message me. So many years ago, I was in a quiet place where I just labored to rise above the noise of my life and sit before the infinite wisdom of God and just listen. After a while, these words rose up in my being. Don't become frustrated with the process. It was a rebuke of sorts because I lacked patience, which is not to say that I define myself as a patient individual today. I'm still very solutions oriented and I aggressively drive results. But years ago, I did not appreciate the power in processes. Life is a process. And if you run full speed ahead towards the finish line, you will miss many beautiful moments. You will miss living fully and experiencing the power embedded in processes. You might have a long list of life dissatisfaction that makes your stomach turn when you think about them. And perhaps you would love to click your heels 3 times and wave your magic wand and instantly create a better life. But that's not going to happen. What I'm offering you is a way to create work and life satisfaction and fulfillment by patiently working through a process, the negotiation process. Working this process puts you in control of your future and aligns your words and actions with your goals and values. We will talk in depth about the negotiation process in this episode of Danielle Inspires, and at the end of our time together, you will perform a simulation to power up your negotiation style. I want to take a moment to give you a sneak peek into the simulation because I want it to be in the forefront of your mind as we walk through the negotiation process. In the next 15 days, who do you need to reach an agreement with to improve your quality of life? This agreement can pertain to your home life, your school life, or your work life. So your negotiation counterpart could be your manager, a teammate, your spouse, your housemate, or someone else. As soon as I created this simulation, I searched my own heart and asked, Danielle, who do you need to reach an agreement with in the next 15 days? And I realized that I needed to reach an agreement with my new manager. You will need to search your heart and ask the same question. The second thing you need to ask yourself is, what negotiation outcome or agreement would thrill you the most? Think big. Don't play small and don't settle for less than the best possible outcome. For this simulation, I pushed myself to think through what I needed from my manager and what the best outcome looked like to me. I pushed aside my apprehensions and doubts, and I just focused on my target, and I challenge you to do the same. You also need to consider how you will build or enhance rapport with the other party starting today. As I walk through the negotiation process, we will cover what rapport is and why it is important. The final question, which you won't have an answer to until I cover all parts of the negotiation process, is what part of the negotiation process do you need the most help with to achieve the outcome you desire? That's your sneak peek into the simulation, which hasn't officially started yet. I will give you more thorough details at the tail end of this segment, but what I have shared thus far will help you to engage with the negotiation process content a bit more. I applied this simulation in real life with my new manager, and the results were phenomenal. The outcome actually exceeded my expectation, and that's why I'm thrilled to present this life-changing content to you today. Click thumbs up for this video if you are ready for what's next. On the screen now are the steps in the negotiation process. You start with planning, preparing, and researching, as well as building a rapport with the other party. Those two steps are prerequisite for making your initial offer. From there, you will negotiate, evaluate, and then close the deal. Document your planning and research. Write it down to cement it into your memory, to refer back to it during the negotiation, and to remind yourself of what you are working towards. You're going to kick off this step by defining your range of acceptability. Your range of acceptability has two extreme points: the target and the minimum acceptable offer. Your target is the deal you would be thrilled to get out of the negotiation, or the terms of the agreement that are ideal for you. Your minimal acceptable offer is the deal you would reluctantly accept out of the negotiation. Your minimum acceptable offer is your stop loss to keep you out of trouble. During negotiation, you can lose track of what you're working towards and let your emotions take over. Also, the desire to reach an agreement can be so strong that you compromise your needs. Therefore, you need to have this point in mind to be sure that you don't accept an agreement less than what is your minimum. The points in between these two extremes are alternative outcomes, which represent degrees of acceptability. Maybe your offer or proposal pertains to having a more flexible schedule, personal leave, lighter workload, getting a good price on a used vehicle or new home. Whatever you are proposing, be able to support it with facts. Does it meet pre-established criteria for approval? What precedents have been set? You want to be sure you are not proposing something that is unreasonable, injurious to others, or unrealistic given the present circumstances. Based on the evidence you have, what seems to be the most likely outcome of the negotiation? The other party to this negotiation might not have a range of acceptability defined, nor facts to support their counter to your offer, but that doesn't negate the fact that your planning, preparation, and research should include trying to identify or estimate the other party's position and point of view. If your goal is a win-win outcome, you won't achieve it without understanding what winning looks like for the other person. Concessions might need to be made to get the deal done. So ask yourself what you would be prepared to give away. What do you think the other person's goals will be? What concessions might be asked of you? What concessions are you willing to make to get the deal done? How have negotiations gone with this person in the past? What kind of relationship do you want with this person in the future. Rapport is a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. In the chat box, tell me why it is important to build rapport. You can look at building rapport as taking time to show others how you want to be treated. Also, when you build rapport, you create environments conducive for successful collaborative outcomes. Contrary to what some believe, business is personal, and a bit of small talk to make personal connections can go a long way to creating a friendly atmosphere. If at all possible, you want to negotiate face-to-face, whether via teleconference or in person. Studies have indicated that a high percentage of communication effectiveness is based on body language and nonverbal cues. Studies have also indicated that a face-to-face discussion can serve to build trust between the parties, resulting in greater levels of cooperation. Moreover, impersonal communication can escalate to arguments or heated debates. So if possible, use face-to-face communication. When delivering your offer, be clear, concise, and confident. Support the merits of your offer. Remember, you've already performed and documented your research. Now it's time to rely on the compelling evidence gathered during the planning, preparation, and research phase of this process. And after you have delivered your offer, remain silent. Give the other party a chance to respond. After your offer is out there, leave it on the table by remaining silent. Don't pick the offer back up and start renegotiating with yourself because you're nervous. If you do, you and your offer will lose credibility. Silence alone solicits a response, which could tempt you to keep talking once you're done, but don't do it. Instead, use silence to prompt the other party to fill in the silence with their voice. Your offer opens negotiations. The other side will respond once you remain silent and keep silent for the duration of their spiel. While they are talking, that's the time for you to silently gather intelligence to fill in the gaps in your understanding. If you recall, during the planning, preparation, and research phase, you might have been guessing about your counterpart's goals, motivation, negotiation style, and other key points. As you listen attentively and purposefully, you can gather tons of useful information. If your counterpart does not immediately agree with your terms, a bargaining might need to take place to get the deal done. This is where your negotiation style will kick in to keep the negotiation moving forward. Echo back key points to see if you heard your counterpart correctly. Ask questions to clarify your understanding, to demonstrate that you are listening, and to gather intelligence to plan your next move. Remember, you have prepared a treasure chest of alternatives and concessions to get the deal done. Use them wisely. If you come to an agreement, take a mental pause in silence to determine whether the substance of the agreement truly meets your needs or puts you in a worse position. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of negotiating and lose sight of your goals. Therefore, you need to take a pause and evaluate the results of the negotiation. Bring to mind your minimum acceptable offer and be sure you have not passed that point. If the negotiation has been going on for a while, determine whether the other party has a firm grasp of the situation. They might have misunderstood your offer, your position, or your key points, for example. Continue to listen aggressively and ask good questions. If you think it's wise to take a break and reconvene later, then make that proposal. If the negotiations will continue at a later time or date, be sure to recap what has been agreed upon thus far to demonstrate that progress is being made and to encourage the other parties to return to the negotiation. Momentarily, I'm going to give you some keys to negotiate like a pro and to achieve win-win outcomes, but we have to cover the last step of the negotiation first. Either an agreement has been reached and will be formalized in writing, or no agreement has been reached. If an agreement is not reached, what happens next is up to you. I want you to know that no does not constitute a failure on your part, even if you faltered during the negotiation process. You were brave enough to confront what's not working well, propose a solution, pitch alternatives, and collaborate with your counterpart to achieve better outcomes. I'll give you 10 cool points for just showing up to the negotiation table, hoping to make a difference. If you walk away with a no, remember that it could take several no's before you get to yes. And with each no, you are gathering intelligence for a stronger position next time and demonstrating your commitment to progress. Frederick Douglass said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress." If you have any questions about the negotiation process thus far, send me an email. Here are a few keys to negotiate like a pro. In the planning, preparation, and research phases, remember, information is power. Do your due diligence by gathering as much data as possible. Also, have someone, a trusted friend, colleague, a mentor, or coach, provide counter arguments to your position and to help you detect psychological biases. You need someone to challenge your beliefs and assumptions and to provide you with other points of view. You want them to contribute facts that might not support your position and to detect biases that could cause missed opportunities and impair decision making. In the rapport phase and negotiation phase, disagree without being disagreeable. Building rapport requires authentic communications, meaning you don't cast your point of view aside and pretend to agree with people just so they will like you. Operating in a diverse environment means navigating many points of view that differ from your own. Moreover, you need to understand that differences don't necessarily mean difficulties or conflict. Instead, they provide opportunities to deepen understanding and to cut conflict off at the pass. Whenever you have an opportunity to connect with someone, make a harmonious connection by leaving a favorable and, if possible, unforgettable impression. I truly believe that each one of us can crowd out weeds of hatred and discord by purposefully using our social skills to plant kindness and unity. In the initial offer phase, stick to the facts. Have your points documented in writing and refer back to them as needed. Be sure your offer accommodates the needs of both parties. Our families, communities, colleagues, civic organizations, and governments are interdependent entities. As individuals, we can't keep making decisions without evaluating the implications within our sphere of influence and the broader public. In the negotiation phase, solve problems. Success doesn't primarily come from knowing how to negotiate. It comes from knowing how to solve problems. Your best deals will come from solving the problems that are motivating the other party to want to enter into the transaction in the first place. Suggest alternative solutions. exploring various possibilities that might work for everyone. Explore options together. Talk less and listen more. If the balance of power is substantially in your favor, offer enough concessions to avoid demoralizing the other party. If you are a parent, head of household, or leader of a team, then the balance of power is in your favor. Use your power for good and all parties concerned. Assess the momentum and keep it going. Having momentum in a negotiation keeps both parties engaged, keeps both sides optimistic about an outcome, and generally keeps either side from looking for other options. Momentum means things are moving forward and both sides continue to be motivated to reach a conclusion. Be mindful of your thoughts and emotions. If you go dark and begin to respond to your counterpart as your opponent or adversary, then you most likely will miss reaching a mutually beneficial agreement. In those situations, it's best to remain silent and regain your composure. Don't let the negotiation ever become too tense. Try to keep things light by smiling, interjecting small talk, and re-emphasizing areas of agreement. By focusing on the agreeable issues, the other party will be more inclined to continue moving forward. So in the closing phase, continue to build rapport by extending thanks for concessions they've made and appreciation for their time and opinions. Also, put the agreement in writing. Embrace and accept no's. No is the end of a chapter, but not the end of the story. Appreciate the knowledge you've gained during the process and determine how to leverage it in the next chapter of your life. Okay, so here comes the really fun part, because it is time to power up your negotiation style. Logistically, let's talk about the simulation. So you're going to take a few minutes to answer the questions that will appear on the screen. First, I want you to think of an agreement you need to reach with someone to improve your quality of life, whether at home, school, or at work. Once you've done that, answer the next question. What negotiation outcome or agreement would thrill you the most? Think big and shoot for the stars on this one. Number 3, how will you build or enhance rapport with the other party starting today? Building rapport lays the groundwork for favorable outcomes. Number 4, what part of the negotiation process do you need the most help with to achieve the outcome you desire? Let's recap the negotiation process. Plan, prepare, and research. Build rapport. Make an initial offer. Negotiate, evaluate, and close. Which part of the negotiation process do you need the most help with to achieve the outcome you desire? In the area you identify as needing the most help, I'm going to extend help to you, but you need to answer each of these questions for me and send them to me in an email. I will respond back by email within 5 days with an empowering solution. I'm committed to your success, but if you don't reach out to me, I can't help you beyond this video, which is power packed by itself, but free live support is always good to have. Anyway, this concludes this week's Danielle Inspires, and I enjoyed every minute of our time together. Until next time, be bold, be great, and be inspired. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me today on Danielle Inspires. If you haven't done so already, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the alert bell so that you are aware of new content as it is being released. I'd love to hear from you as we take this journey together. Give me a shout out in chat and join me here next week for more inspiration to fuel your transformation on Danielle Inspires.